A woman crashes her car on a dark mountain road. A man stops to help her. She tells him she's fine. She's already called for a tow truck. He believes her. He drives home just 5 minutes away to call the police anyway, to be safe. 5 minutes later, he comes back with an officer. The car is still there. The headlights are still on. Her phone is still inside. Her gloves are still inside. She is not. No footprints in the snow leading away from that car. No blood. No sign of a struggle. Just an empty vehicle on an empty road in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of winter. And here's the twist almost nobody talks about. That same morning, before she ever got in her car, she told her professors someone in her family had died. Nobody had. She lied, packed her car with textbooks and running shoes like she planned to come back, and then drove 2 hours into the mountains alone at night in February for a reason she never told a single person. 22 years later, the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit still has this case open. Her sister still runs a page with hundreds of thousands of followers, still gets tips sent to her every single week. And as recently as this year, investigators were back out in those woods, searching again. Nobody has ever been arrested. Nobody has ever confessed. And Maura Murray has never been found. This is that story. And by the end, you'll understand why 5 minutes has haunted an entire town for over 2 decades. Maura Murray was 21 years old. She was smart, athletic, and disciplined, the kind of person people described as going places. She had started her college years at the United States Military Academy at West Point, one of the hardest schools to get into in the entire country. After leaving West Point, she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she was training to become a nurse. She was also a competitive runner. Friends said she rarely missed a training session. She had structure. She had discipline. She had a future mapped out, which is part of why what happened next never made sense to the people who knew her. On the morning of February 9th, 2004, Maura sent an email to her nursing professors. She said there had been a death in her family and that she needed to take the week off from her clinical rotation. But according to her family, that wasn't true. Nobody had died. Later that same day, campus police were notified about a car accident involving a vehicle registered to Maura several hours away in a completely different state. It's still unclear exactly how or why that report reached them so quickly, but it added another layer of confusion to a day that was already falling apart. Before leaving campus, Maura did something else strange. She withdrew a large amount of cash from her bank account. She packed her car, not with an overnight bag, but with textbooks, running gear, and personal documents. Then she got in her black satin sedan, and she started driving north. Her destination was never confirmed, but witnesses reported seeing her stop at a liquor store along the way where she bought a bottle of alcohol, despite being under the legal drinking age. By early evening, she was more than 2 hours from campus on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, a dark, winding, and largely empty road that cuts through the White Mountains. It was the kind of road where, at night in February, you might not see another car for 20 minutes at a time. At around 7:30 p.m., her car left the road. It struck a snowbank, then a tree. She wasn't badly hurt, but she also wasn't alone for long. A local bus driver named Butch Atwood was driving home when he saw the crashed car. He pulled over to help. Maura was standing outside the vehicle. According to Atwood, she seemed shaken, but physically okay. She was shivering. She wasn't wearing a hat, even though it was freezing outside. He asked if she needed help. She told him she'd already called AAA for roadside assistance and that everything was under control. Atwood didn't push. He got back in his vehicle and drove the short distance to his house to call the police anyway, just to make sure someone official knew about the crash. That call took him about 5 minutes. When he returned to the scene with a police officer, Maura was gone. This is the part of the story that has haunted investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths for 2 decades. 5 minutes. That's the entire window. Her car doors were unlocked. The headlights were still on. Inside the vehicle, police found her cell phone and her gloves. Items you would not leave behind on a night that cold unless you were leaving in a hurry or unless you weren't leaving by choice at all. There were no visible footprints leading away from the car in the snow, though weather conditions that night have made this detail a point of ongoing debate among investigators. It was as if she evaporated. Within hours, a search was underway. Police brought in dogs. Search and rescue teams combed the woods along Route 112 for days. Nothing. No jacket fragments, no signs of a struggle, no trace evidence leading into the tree line. As days turned into weeks, the case shifted from missing person after an accident to something far more troubling. Investigators began to consider 3 main possibilities: that Maura had run away and was hiding somewhere by choice, that she had wandered into the woods and succumbed to the extreme cold, or that someone had taken her from that roadside in the narrow window before police arrived. Each theory had a problem. If she ran away voluntarily, why leave her phone, her gloves, and a car full of her personal belongings? If she died from exposure in the woods, why did search teams using cadaver dogs, aircraft, and hundreds of volunteers over multiple seasons never find a single trace of her? And if someone abducted her, it would have had to happen in an impossibly tight window, on a road where, statistically, another car might not pass for many minutes at a time. Over the years, 3 main theories have dominated the conversation around this case. Theory 1: she ran away. Some believe Maura staged her own disappearance to escape a life that was quietly falling apart. Reports later surfaced of financial stress and personal struggles in the months before she vanished. In this theory, she's still out there, living under a different identity. Theory 2: she died from exposure. New Hampshire winters are brutal. If she wandered into the woods disoriented after the crash, she may not have survived the night. But this theory struggles against one major fact: the sheer scale of the search effort and its complete failure to find any remains, even years later. Theory 3: foul play. This is the theory Maura's family has increasingly come to believe. It centers on the possibility that someone in the area, potentially someone already known to law enforcement, encountered Maura in that 5-minute window, and she never had the chance to leave on her own terms. None of these theories have ever been confirmed. None have been ruled out completely, either. For over 2 decades, Maura's family, especially her sister, Julie, has refused to let the case fade into cold case obscurity. Julie has built an online following of hundreds of thousands of people sharing updates, encouraging tips, and keeping her sister's story in the public eye. She's said publicly that she believes Maura was the victim of foul play, and that somewhere someone knows exactly what happened on that road. In recent years, New Hampshire investigators have continued follow-up searches in the surrounding area based on old tips about a person seen moving quickly through the woods on the night Maura disappeared. Nothing conclusive has ever come from them. The case remains open. The New Hampshire Cold Case Unit still actively investigates it today. 22 years later, Route 112 still winds through those same mountains. The tree Maura's car struck is still there, somewhere between a 5-minute phone call and a police officer's flashlight. A 21-year-old woman with her whole life ahead of her disappeared without a trace. No body, no confession, no closure, just a cold road in New Hampshire, and a family still waiting for an answer. If you have any information related to this case, you can contact the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit directly. And if you want to see more real unsolved disappearances like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because this isn't the last mystery we're covering.